10 years after my 500-mile solo walk of the Camino Francés, and 4 years after trekking the Camino Portugués with my wife and then 2-year-old son, I found myself back in Spain with the family, visiting the beautiful port city of Ferrol to walk my third and their second Camino, this time along the lesser-trafficked Camino Inglés. We used our first day to shake off a little jet lag with an exploratory city walk, enjoyed a few servings of ice cream, and fueled with some of our favorite pilgrim foods, pizza, tortilla, and raixão. We stayed overnight at the beautiful Presedo Hotel, with a wonderful view of the Rio de Ferrol.
I think I'm going to run, but I might walk or run. I don't really know, but I might run, but
The official starting point of the Camino Inglés is a large stone block right along the main street of Ferrol Harbor. From here, our journey began by passing through narrow residential streets before taking us on a tour of the downtown area. In the days before we began the Camino Inglés, the forecast warned of relentless rain for our first stretch, but having walked 2 previous Caminos, I knew that Galicia's weather can change in an instant and held out hope. When we stepped onto the trail beneath clear blue skies, it felt like a small gift, the perfect weather to begin our walk to Santiago. Our first stage on the Camino Inglés had us covering a flat 10-mile stretch to the city of Neda, on the opposite side of the Rio de Ferrol. We were fortunate to be starting out on a Sunday, with no traffic, quiet streets, and lots of well-wishers enjoying the sunny morning. There are few moments in life with the same level of magic as one's first day on a Camino pilgrimage. With this being my third, the emotions were stronger than ever. Seeing my son charging ahead with his own pack had me swelling with pride and excitement for him. My decade-long Camino journey has gone from walking with a Camino family to walking a Camino with family. Leaving the city center of Ferrol behind, we enjoyed a combination of gravel and dirt trails along the shores of the Rio de Ferrol. Much like our first day experience on the Camino Portugués, we didn't see many other pilgrims. This was a sharp contrast to my first day on the Francés, which had me sharing the trail with more pilgrims than I could count. 5 miles into our first stage of walking, the trail led away from the waterfront and back towards the city through an industrial zone. This stretch had the one on-trail food option listed on my map, but like many businesses in Ferrol, it was closed for Sunday. My son met a friendly cat as we explored the Monasterio de San Martino do Couto. This Romanesque 12th century church sits right next to a bridge over the river. There's an alternate route walking path alongside the bridge for pilgrims wanting to cut their first stage a little short, but we opted for the traditional longer route. Walking through small villages with farms, gardens, and livestock is one of my favorite bits of Camino nostalgia. Another is finding way signs and yellow arrows. Only this time around, my son took care of all the arrow spotting and turn-by-turn navigation. As we approached 8 miles of walking for the day, the trail took us back towards the Rio de Ferrol and the Mino de las Aceñas tide mill. This mill has a fascinating history that dates back to the 1700s. Mino de las Aceñas was used as one of the primary flour factories in Galicia during the 18th and 19th centuries. There are still a few remnants that make for a fun, hands-on experience for kids. From Mino de las Aceñas, we continued on a land bridge to the town of Oponto and followed a paved river path toward the town of Xubia. It was at this point we reached the 100-kilometer Camino marker. With a total distance of 114 kilometers on the Camino Inglés, Owen had already knocked out the first 14, with nothing but smiles and laughter. To celebrate, we ventured a little off-trail into the town of Xubia for a lunch of pizza and raixão. After lunch, we made our way back to the Camino Inglés and crossed over the Puente Peatonal de Xubia, a bridge that drops pilgrims off at the Pilgrims Albergue of Neda. We opted to walk a little farther and stayed at the amazing Pazo da Merced along the water.
No,
Maybe there's a little swing for the puppy.
After a gorgeous first day of walking on the Camino Inglés under sunny skies, our weather forecast for day 2 called for a steady drizzle with bouts of heavy showers. We cruised through our comfortable 10-mile first day and were excited to experience our second stage of walking to the historic city of Pontedeume. From Neda, our day started with a gradual climb that followed a series of paved pathways through residential areas before leveling out as we reached the town of Ferrol. From there, the Ingles followed a dirt road alongside the highway. This was the first stretch of the Ingles that gave us the sense of being secluded in nature. It was here that the clouds opened up with a light drizzle. The canopy of trees kept most of it off of our shoulders, but the rain grew heavy shortly after. We were lucky to find a cafe for lunchtime, just as the skies really opened up.
I cannot.
After lunch, we had a pleasant downhill walk through the rain with brief stops to visit the local horses and goats. We reached the beautiful town of Pontedeume in a gentle mist and were instantly taken in by the city's beauty and charm. The history of Pontedeume dates back to its founding in the year 1270. From the bridge leading into town, you can see the Torreón dos Andrade guard tower on the right-hand side. According to the Brierley guidebook, the tower used to be part of an attached manor, but it's now a museum that we were able to visit. What a difference a day can make for weather. We arrived in Pontedeume under gray skies and rain, but woke up to find blue skies and sunshine. It was a fitting shift in weather, as we'd be hiking to the beach town of Mino on our third day along the Camino Inglés. With 10-mile days for our first 2 stages of walking, we were looking forward to a sequence of shorter stages in the middle stretch of our pilgrimage. Shorter doesn't always mean easier, though. The path from Pontedeume to Mino looks pretty simple in the guidebook at only 6.5 miles, but the first mile packs in a 500-foot climb on the journey out of town. The early morning sunshine slowly gave way to a canopy of cloud cover as we meandered along a grassy path that cut through a wooded forest before traversing a golf course. Much like our first 2 days along the Camino Inglés, our sightings of other pilgrims were few and far between. It was great to have each other's company, and we stayed fully entertained with jokes, games, and the telling of stories. In the back half of our walk towards Mino, we paid a visit to the well-known rest stop called Teteria Peregrino. On each Camino I've walked, there have been a few cafes that stay in my memory forever due to their full embodiment of the pilgrim spirit. Teteria Peregrino is definitely one of these places, with great food and refreshments provided by a warm and wonderful host, and her little pup named Chica. We only had a short bit of walking left after our cafe stop, and were soon smelling the salty sea air of Mino. To make the most of things, I booked a hotel a bit off of the Camino so we could be right on the water. After checking into our hotel, we had a very nice meal at the on-site restaurant, and then watched my son play at the beach despite the cool weather, like only a kid can. Our fourth day on the Camino Inglés started with another smattering of rain showers as we left Mino behind on our way to Betanzos. Despite the cold morning showers, we were kept warm by the early uphill hiking along a magical stretch of the Ingles. At the top of the climb, Camino Angels had provided a much-needed spread of snacks and drinks at a donativo station. We fueled up and made our way to the nearby town of Gas, where we were met by an unusual Camino patron pointing pilgrims in the right direction.
Because it can see.
Continuing on through the town of Gas, our equine adventures continued with some beautiful, well-groomed horses that looked ready for a show. They seemed entertained by our presence and kept a close eye on us as we walked by. With the town of Gas and its horses in our rear view, it was only a short walk until we reached the outskirts of Betanzos. Betanzos dates back to the time of the Romans, when it was known as Flavium Brigantium. Spending a night in Betanzos is like stepping back into history, with one of the best preserved old quarters in all of Galicia. We enjoyed some great food and a lot of extra walking before bedding down for a big day ahead. The Camino Inglés follows a steep path out of the city of Betanzos and quickly leaves the city walls behind, taking pilgrims on a secluded path along forest and farmland. Seeing dogs, cats, chickens, horses, sheep, and cows always puts an extra pep in Owen's step. We reached the town of Limañón and stopped at Bar Camionero for what turned out to be one of our best lunches on the entire Inglés, with an affable host serving burgers, tortilla, coffee, and aquarius, a perfect combination. We walked a little farther after lunch and then had to take a taxi to our off-trail accommodation. The Camino Inglés is still in development, and there are a few stretches lacking in accommodation and cafe options. Our beds for the night were well worth the journey away from the Inglés, though. The beautiful Rectoral de Cines is an enchanting countryside hotel built within the remains of an old monastery.
Oh, don't bite my shoe.
Circle completed.
As I learned on our walk of the Camino Portugués, walking the Camino as a family doesn't mean you won't build an extended Camino family along the way. Our early days along the Inglés had been pretty quiet, but as our stage began from Presedo, we walked with an amazing trio of ladies from the States. They were all Camino veterans, with loads of great stories and experiences from the way. It was great to have the company, as this sixth day had us taking on one of the bigger climbs of the Inglés on our way to the town of Bruma. At the 3-mile mark for the day, we passed by the Beche Dam. The Beche Dam area has a nice playground, a picnic area, and public use toilets. Owen played on the playground for his rest break, and then we got back on the trail to finish the rest of our uphill hiking. Leaving the Beche Dam behind, the trail continued to gain elevation, but never really felt too steep or severe. It's much more of a gradual uphill climb, which was a welcome surprise after I'd seen the steep profile in the guidebook. This section passes through a small town called Ovau along a few crisscrossing streets before heading back to gravel and dirt roads. We were once again greeted along the trail by a duo of affable horses that seemed to enjoy our company as much as we did theirs. At this point on the Camino Inglés, we only had 45 kilometers left for our journey to Santiago. This was a very proud moment for Owen, as he did the daily math on our progress from our starting point in Ferrol. At the 6.5 mile mark for the day, we reached the town of As Travessas and stopped at Café Avelina. We enjoyed a simple jamón y queso bocadillo with a few coffees while we rested our legs from the long uphill climb. We arrived in the village of Bruma after a quick 8.5 miles of walking and 1,200 feet of climbing. It was amazing how fast the day flew by. Looking at the guidebook that morning, we were wondering how Owen would do. As always, the Camino provides, and on this day, it provided us with an amazing Camino family to help motivate, inspire, and distract us from the big climb on the day. For our accommodation in Bruma, we stayed at the brand new albergue San Lorenzo in a private room. It sits right down the street from the old Pilgrims albergue and is a short walk to Café Casagrana, the only place to eat in town. From the town of Bruma, the Camino Inglés follows a wide asphalt road that passes by farms and sparsely populated residential areas. The skies were once again dry, cloudy, and cool, perfect walking weather. For our 7th day on the Camino Inglés, we decided to take it easy and give Owen a chance to rest up after his big climb to Bruma the day before. Most people push to Siguero for this stage, but we stopped midway in the town of Ordes at Cathedral and Vedas. This was one of the most charming accommodations I've ever stayed at on a Camino. This old farmhouse has been recently renovated, but the bones have been around for 250 years. Staying here is like walking back in time to see Galicia in the 18th century. The penultimate day of a Camino experience is a conflict of emotions, the excitement of reaching Santiago mixed with the sadness of a journey coming to an end. This was felt even more on a short path like the Inglés, as we were just starting to hit our stride as pilgrims. I was also much more of a spectator on this adventure along the Inglés, and I love seeing every second of my son's magical journey along the way.
Got you right into dead center.
This final stretch of the Camino Inglés continues on a combination of beautiful dirt paths and paved walkways through farms and villages. Owen made sure to snatch up all of the available dandelions and made wishes for just about anything he could think of. We got to enjoy the company of sheep flocks and sheepdogs as we continued on towards Santiago. In all, I was just trying to take it all in, the sights, the sounds, and the smells of the Camino. I knew I'd miss them all greatly when home. Most of all, I enjoyed watching my son grow up on a path that has come to mean so much to me. The final section of walking on our 8th stage of the Camino Inglés parallels the AP9 highway along a paved pathway. It was starting to get pretty hot, so we found a nice spot in the shade to have some snacks and hydrate.
Party day, party day, party day, party
In Siguero, we stayed at the albergue Camino Real in a private room. This is a fantastic place to stop for pilgrims, as it offers a variety of room and bunk options. Best of all, the albergue has a central location close to restaurants and shops in Siguero. As we walked around Siguero, we saw that there was a conference going on downtown. It turned out to be a conference for the Camino Inglés, with representatives from each major city along the path. There was also regional music and vendors selling locally made goods. After listening to some great music, we made our way to the restaurants in the downtown area and enjoyed a nice meal. There was only one more stage left, and all the pilgrims in town were buzzing with the excitement of reaching Santiago.
That's a good dog.
Can I get on a walk, please? I think you could guard.
After a light breakfast at our albergue in Siguero, we made our way out to the Camino Inglés for our final day of walking. We took our time, stopping to pet all of the dogs we saw and admire all of the churches we passed by. There are so many little things about the pilgrim experience that are easy to overlook while walking, and these things become what you'll miss most when you get home. After starting out in Ferrol with Camino markers showing over 100 kilometers, Owen was very excited to see markers with single digits. He was thrilled when we passed the 10-kilometer marker.
I'm feeling good about this because this is actually our last day, and I'm straight on the Camino sign right now, literally.
On this final stage, the natural paths of the Ingles quickly gave way to the urban sprawl of Santiago, and as we approached the northern end of town, we stopped at a few cafes to hydrate and rest our legs. The temperature was quite high compared to our previous 8 days of walking, and we were starting to feel it, but there's nothing a bocadillo and aquarius can't fix. As pilgrims approach the Cathedral in Santiago, the energy of peregrinos and people begins to grow with every step. Owen was definitely feeling the vibes, and had an extra pep, bounce, and pop with each step. We were taking in the Buen Caminos, ancient walkways, and the impending end of our journey on the Ingles, when the distinct call of bagpipes from the eastern entrance of the cathedral pulled us towards our final destination. Owen's first Camino on the Portugués had us entering from the south. This time, we would enter from the east, which was very special for me, as it brought me back to my journey on the Francés a decade before. But this day was all about my son. At 2, we pushed him along the 150-mile Portugués from Porto, and here, just a week away from his 6th birthday, he completed a 70-mile pilgrimage on his own 2 feet. As we made our way out to the Praça do Obradoiro, we enjoyed a surprise reconnection with our pilgrim friends from Bruma. It was the perfect way to bring this journey to a close. Family and friends. It's hard to explain the emotions a pilgrim feels standing in front of the cathedral after a transformative walk towards Santiago. Pride, joy, elation, relief, Sadness and disbelief can bubble up and shift with the breeze. On this day, I was simply thankful. Life is short, and childhood goes by so fast. To have these moments in a place that means so much to me is something I don't take for granted. After collecting our Compostelas and enjoying some amazing Galician cuisine, we made our way back to the cathedral to enter through the Holy Door, as this was a special Jubilee year. The Anno Jacobeo was actually supposed to take place the year prior, but COVID pushed things back, and to our delight, the Holy Year was extended to cover our visit. I woke up early the following morning and spent some time enjoying a quiet and calm Santiago de Compostela with coffee and a croissant at a local cafe before walking around the near-empty streets prior to sunrise. I then went back to the hotel to wake Julie and Owen for the first Pilgrim's Mass of the day, where we were treated to the swinging of the Botafumeiro. From Ferrol to Santiago, through rain and sun, forest and beaches, alongside horses, sheep, dogs, and chickens, encouraged and inspired by fellow pilgrims, this was the end of our journey. As we watched the Botafumeiro climb high through the cathedral, the weight of this experience, and how much the way has given me, sat wonderfully heavy. What a beautiful life this is, and what a beautiful way to spend it. Until we walk again, buen camino.